Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming to the farewell reading of the Kerouac House current writer-in-resident, Kathy Fish, who many consider to be the preeminent flash fiction writer in the world, though she won't admit as much. A little bit about Kathy. Her stories have been widely published in journals, anthologies, and textbooks. Her work has been published in Ploughshares, Guernica, Swamp Pink, Electric Literature, Denver Quarterly, Best American Non-Required Reading, the Norton Reader, and Norton's Flash Fiction America 2023. Honors include the Copper Nickel Editors Prize, 6 appearances in the Best Small Fiction series, and a Ragdale Foundation Fellowship. The author of 5 short fiction collections, Kathy Fish teaches a variety of writing workshops online. She also publishes a popular monthly craft newsletter, The Art of Flash Fiction, which was recently named as one of the 20 best creative writing substacks by writers at work. Ladies and gentlemen, Kathy Fish.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you for the lovely introduction, and thanks all of you for coming out here tonight for my farewell. And I just want to say, can I stay? I don't want to leave. I've had a wonderful, wonderful time, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity to write in Jack Kerouac's house. So without further ado, I'm going to read. I did write a great deal in my time here, but nothing that I felt I've got polished enough to read. And Brett will tell you I'm a terrible perfectionist and annoying in that way. But I do want to read. I decided, when figuring out what to read, I thought I want to read some old things that I've written that I hadn't visited in a while. So I've got, like the Three Bears, I've got a little story, a medium story, and a longer story that I'm going to read for you. So first, the shortest one. Am I okay with this? Is this okay? This is a very old story called The Cartoonist. For supper, mashed potatoes with bits of beef and gravy mixed in, outsized tumblers of cold milk. Your father's bald head bent over his food, sketched the curve of his cheeks, ballooned out like a squirrel's, birthmark on his forehead shaped like the state of Maine. Nobody talks except for your mother, looking very weary, place bags, actual pieces of luggage under her eyes, park them on her cheekbones. Your baby brother banging a spoon, pencil his smile illegally crossing the borders of his face. A crow flies down through the chimney and enters the dining room, ruffles its feathers on the buffet table. Evil triangle-shaped eyes. Your mother rises, grabs a broom, furrow her brow. The bird flies back and forth, slamming against the walls, the windows, black feather like a flag sticking out of the pudding. Your mother screaming, swinging, exclamation points all around her head. Your father's words, "Sit down, you lunatic," in a bubble between them. Big brother in the shadows, slumped against the doorway, his baggy jeans and narrowed eyes. Make him smaller than everybody else. Let's see, that one. Very short. Yeah, that's a weird story. Okay, so this is my medium story. And my favorite thing about this story was that I read it at the Denver AWP at a reading that Roxane Gay, I don't know if you know who that is, but she was the host of the reading. And as I was reading it, she was laughing, and it was the best feeling in the world. So anyway, that's my story about this story, which is called Wake Up. My neighbor, Mr. Dorn, is standing naked on my front steps, singing. He looks like a reptile in the moonlight. Maybe he's sleepwalking, in which case I know not to go and shake him awake, or he'll keel over with a heart attack. I've read about this. This is my third night of insomnia, and I'm feeling as close to crazy as I ever have. Lack of REM sleep can lead to hallucinations and disordered thinking. It's possible Mr. Dorn is not even here, but cozy in his bed with Mrs. Dorn. It's possible I'm not even here. I go to the kitchen and heat up some leftover pumpkin soup. Mr. Dorn is singing My Cherie Amour and is on the la 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 part. He doesn't sound anything like Stevie Wonder. Bill, my cat, rubs against my leg, and I crumble off bits of bread and cheese, and she eats it out of my hand, taking her time. Bill misses my husband, the one she really loved, the one who really loved her. The apartment he moved into doesn't allow cats. That last night he held Bill's face close to his and said, "This is only temporary." But that was news to me. Mr. Dorn is having difficulty reaching the high notes. Bill jumps to the windowsill and hisses at him. "Bill, come on, don't be a bitch." I pick her up and rub her under her chin, the way she likes. Mr. Dorn finishes the song and stands holding his penis, looking amazed as if penises had just been invented and he'd been asked to try this one out for size. I don't want to call and scare Mrs. Dorn. They're such a nice couple. Just before Christmas, Mrs. Dorn was going away to some craft fair in Minneapolis, and she knew Mr. Dorn would be lonely, so she built a snow version of herself standing in front of their house. It was a hell of a stacked snow woman. Mrs. Dorn used some artistic license. I took a picture of Mr. Dorn standing next to Darla too and made an 8x10 of it for him to frame. He cried when I gave it to him, and she'd only been gone for 3 days. I call my husband sometimes in the middle of the night. "Are we going to be okay?" I ask, whispering. I don't want to wake him up completely. I read somewhere that people in a semi-conscious state are incapable of lying. Mr. Dorn needs to wake up and go home to his bed. I push up the window and lean close to the screen and start singing. La, 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 la. He blinks. La, 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 la. He clears his throat and lets go of his penis. Mr. Dorn and I are singing My Cherie Amour together. Maybe he's asleep or maybe he's not, but I'll say this, the two of us are really something. Old. So I used to actually write longer stories. I used to write short stories before I started writing flash fiction. So this one, and I thought, I got to read this one because it's called Orlando. Lori likes the man who sits at the hotel bar every other Friday night and gives her tissues when she starts to cry. Lori would like not to cry so much, and she's not even sure why she cries. But if the man is there in his rumpled suit and scuffed shoes, he gives her a mournful, commiserating look and produces the tissue. He says, "It's not so bad." She can hardly hear him over the thunking music and the happy hour crowd, but it's what he always says, so she nods and smiles and pats his arm. She likes that he doesn't judge, like the manager Ike or the other waitresses and customers. Ike told her he may have to let her go if she can't pull it together. People come here for the happiness. But when the place is overrun with customers and not enough staff, it's Ike who hides in the cooler amongst the boxes of frozen onion and calamari rings until the crisis passes or he runs out of oxygen. Lori is too wiped out after her shift to want to do much sexually with her boyfriend, Freddie. They're like roommates now, going over the bills together in the kitchen on Sunday afternoons, walking up and down the grocery aisles afterwards with an envelope full of cash marked food. Lori spends too freely. They use the envelope so she can't go over budget. If they run out of bananas and the envelope's empty, then sorry, no more bananas. The man at the bar says he works for a company that manufactures industrial laminates. Lori has no idea what these are, but she says cool anyway. He gives her his business card. It says M. Shipley, Regional Sales Representative. And when she asks, he won't say what the M stands for. so she just calls him M. She slips him an extra Heineken sometimes when Ike isn't watching. Tonight, when the man hands over his tissue, he asks Lori up to his room. He tells her he only wants to put his arms around her. Every time he sees her, he says he longs to put his arms around her. Lori finishes her shift, counts, and shares her tips, unties her apron, and meets the man outside the bar. She wishes she didn't smell so much like hamburgers. The hotel's ballroom is as big as a hangar, and they have to cross it to get to the elevators. One hotel employee moves from table to table with a cart, clearing up. "Hey," Lori says, and the boy says, "Hey, Lori," drawing out the vowels. He doesn't look up. "It looked pretty in here earlier," she tells the man, her voice echoing. The lights had been turned down low, and the candlelight pinged the crystal chandeliers. Men and women in evening dresses danced around the room. Now, in the bright light, the ballroom looks hung over. "I hate the shabbiness," she says. "Please don't cry again," he says. "I have run out of tissues." They stand at the door of his room while he fumbles for his key. Lori sniffs. I think this is just allergies." He takes all the cards out of his wallet and fans them out like a poker hand. "I must have lost it," he said. "This is a fork in the road. You can't find that key because we're not meant to go in there," Lori says, pushing up her glasses. "Also, my ears are popping. Maybe this means something." "No, I've got it," he says. He tucks his wallet into his pocket and grabs hold of her, squeezing her. Lori lets out a gasp. He runs his hand through her hair. Inside, he grips the corner of the bedspread and pulls. It slides off, stiff and shiny with the residue of sex. "These never get washed," he says. "I saw a news segment where the reporter put a square of hotel room bedspread underneath a microscope. It looked like an ocean full of confused protozoa." "People don't want to mess up the sheets they're going to sleep on later," Lori says. She is aware of the note of authority in her voice. She runs her hand down the front of her uniform as if to smooth out the wrinkles, and removes her shoes. "I'm anything but fussy," the man says, kicking the bedspread into the corner. "Oh, I almost forgot," Lori pulls something wrapped in a napkin out of her purse and hands it to him. He sets it on the dresser and opens it up. "Oh, it's a sandwich. Do you like sandwiches?" "Sure I do," he says. Lori takes off her glasses and sets them on the nightstand. Without them, the furniture in the room resembles a family of amiable bears. She switches off the lamp. The man pulls her close and sighs into the back of her neck. It makes her want him. "The maids have a break room that management doesn't know anything about," Lori says. "One of the guest rooms that are supposed to be redecorated, but it's like they forgot about it. They have a riot in there, parties galore. Sometimes they invite me, and that means something because I'm not that much fun." "Could you turn around?" he says. "I want to see your face." "The maids are crazy. This place is crazy. You have no idea. You know that guy you saw cleaning up? His name is Spencer. He can dance." The man says, "Please turn around so I can see you." She runs her hand up and down his arm but doesn't move. "But this is nice," she says, "isn't it?" She feels his mouth on her skin, kissing, biting a little. She turns to face him, and they kiss long and slow. It is beyond her now, and the man's hands are all over her, touching her hair, her face, her body. He kisses her throat, nibbles her jaw. Lori has a vague sense of Freddie back in the apartment, craning his neck out the fire escape, calling for her like she were a lost cat. She waves her hands around as the man kisses her. As if she's trying to catch hold of something. He stops and looks at her. "Are you okay?" "We should stop," she says. "Are you sure?" No, she is not. The air conditioning clicks on and hums. The drapes flutter, letting in a hard line of light from the parking lot. "Come on, let me show you around this place," Lori says. On the hotel roof, they can see all of Orlando, hyper and blinking and spread out for miles. The air is cool and fragrant of magnolias. Lori sits on one of the lawn chairs and pulls off her shoes. Don't look, she says, scrunching and splaying her toes. This is great, the man says, sitting next to her. Laurie's not used to being with him with so much quiet around. His voice isn't jumbled in with the bar noise, the customer noise, and the music. She doesn't have to lean in and go, "Pardon?" when he talks to her. Cars pass on the street below. The flags on top of the hotel across the street flutter and snap. There are millions of stars, but over the city lights, the sky is a dull gray blanket. Laurie remembers the night she and Freddie drove out to the country and lay flat on their backs in some farmer's field to watch a meteor shower. She said to him, "This is the most wondrous place I've ever been to." The next day, they drove by and saw the rusted cars out by the farmhouse, the scum on the pond, and a three-legged cat hopping around the weeds. She walks a slow, wide circle around the man. "You're probably tired. I'm keeping you up." "No, please, I don't want to go back to my room." Laurie shows him places in the hotel other people don't get to see. The kitchen, the break room. In the hotel laundry, Laurie says to the two women folding a mountain of white towels, "This is my friend. His name is M." They look up and smile. Laurie and the man hold hands lightly, sometimes swinging their arms as they wander around. She notices the hems of his trousers are frayed. One shoe is untied. They pass through the ballroom again. "I'm sorry, I can't turn on the lights. We have to be a little sneaky." Laurie's focused on the exit sign, pulling on the man's hand. She pushes open the door and they stand outside it, squinting, regarding each other. The place is deserted except for one of the housekeeping staff pushing a vacuum sweeper around the lobby. Laurie picks up a small camera that was left on the floor. "Does it have a timer?" "Let's take a picture of us," the man says. Laurie laughs. "On someone else's camera?" "Sure, and then we'll be good scouts and we'll turn it in." He sets the timer and walks across the lobby and places the camera on the front desk. The housekeeper looks up from her vacuuming. He waves Laurie over and they stand together 1/2 inch apart in front of a potted fig tree with tiny white lights woven through its branches. At the last second, the man lifts his arm to put it around Laurie's shoulder, knocking her glasses askew. She looks at him. Let's go back." In bed, he kisses the top of her head and pulls her close. Laurie whispers into his chest, but teenagers are tromping down the hall outside, laughing. He doesn't hear her. She's aware of her waitress uniform twisted around her. Her hair entangles. The man is quiet for a while. Then he starts to tell her things about how long he has worked for the laminate company and the schedule of cities he travels to, New York, Washington, Orlando, and back. How he hates all the airports and the taxi cabs and the hotel rooms, but that is his job. He tells her that his oldest daughter has bulimia, but she's such a sweet girl, and that last year his wife found a lump. She's cancer-free now, but they don't touch anymore, and they never kiss, and it's kissing that he misses most of all. He talks and Laurie listens, blinking in the dark, and every now and then he asks her if she's okay, and she says she is. A week later, as M rides the airport shuttle to LaGuardia and Laurie ponders the unit price on a pound of macaroni, a couple from Ohio downloads their vacation photos onto their computer. They click through several photos of their two children, Cy and Mandy, hugging Mickey, hugging Minnie, and shaking hands with Goofy. When they come to an odd photo of a tall stranger in a wrinkled suit with his tie undone, who is turned facing a small woman wearing crooked glasses and the kind of smile a woman wears when she's on the verge of tears. Thank you. It's weird to read something that long.